Hello and welcome to the Ask Weldon Show, episode 154. We have passed the 150 mark, and today's episode is called The Best Morning Habit, Diet, Exercise, and Lifestyle for Esport Performance, because we have a number of questions, two of them in fact, that cover diet, exercise, lifestyle, and habits for esport performance. Welcome to the show. My name is Weldon Green, and I am an esport performance coach. I'm a sports psychology trainer by trade, and I went into esports a couple of years ago and managed to win a couple championships. So here I am answering your questions about performance in esport, performance in sport, and performance in life, whether that be streaming or ballroom dancing or academics or college League of Legends or whatever it is you are interested in. The way that you ask questions on the show is you go down below the video and there's a Discord link. You hop in the Discord. There's a channel called the Ask Weldon Show. There's also a bunch of other cool stuff happening there if you like playing games with people, chatting, or talking about, gossiping about sports psychology and sports psychology news, learning about the mental side of life. Otherwise, you can go to the Ask Weldon Show channel and you can either type your question in or you can submit an audio question. I prefer audio questions. It gives a nice break up to the monotony of the show, and you can use a little app there called Voice Memos, or you can use a bot in the Discord to record your audio right there on the computer and then drop it in the channel. Any announcements? I'm back in Finland. I just spent the week working in Berlin. I work for a tech company called Dojo Madness, who purchased shares in my coaching company and kind of acqui-hired me. So I've been working there for the last year or so on projects. And I spent a couple days at G2. Had some fun with G2, doing some workshops. As you can see from their clean execution of Rocket yesterday or today, depending on your time zone, they are looking very sharp, and I'm excited for their upward trajectory. I don't think they're good enough yet to challenge the world stage, but I think that they're good enough to challenge Europe, and we shall see if they can carry that all the way to the title, for sure. And I'm really curious to see who represents us at MSI. I'm pumped because I know either way, it's either going to be G2 or somebody who has to go through G2 to get there. So it'll be fantastic at that tournament. And yeah, I'm going to be back in Finland here in this room basically for the next 6 weeks, streaming consistently at 4:30 a.m. Helsinki time. So set your watch, check out worldtimebuddy.com and find out when your time zone intersects with 4:30 a.m. Helsinki time. And then show up. I'll see you there. Twitch.tv/MindGamesWeldon. You can catch this show that you're seeing on YouTube right now recorded. You can see it live, and you can catch the before and after parts where we get to kind of have any kind of conversation you desire. Those of you who show up and are in chat. All right. Although they're probably annoyed because I'm ignoring them right now to talk to you. Let's jump into the questions for today's show. All right, question number 1. We're going to jump right into it. This one is from Full Metal on Discord, and he asks, can an improved diet, exercise regime, and lifestyle directly improve performance in esport? And if so, how much would it directly improve performance, and in what ways would it do so? Fantastic question. Okay. So, short answer, yes, and by a small amount. Long answer, let's dig into it. So let's start with diet. Diet can directly improve esport performance by balancing out your omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids in your body. So basically, we eat way too much omega-12 in our diet nowadays. There are studies that suggest, and these are studies on people and tribes that have diets that are more natural, you would say, than the modern world. Than the first world country. These are diets even existing in first world countries. What do I want to say? Than the modern human diet. I would say, in industrialized countries, in societies, cities, villages, whatever. Anyway, you guys eat a lot more fat, oily, sticky animal fat than we used to. So where it used to be a 1-to-1 ratio of these 3 different kinds of fat, or at least closer to a 1-to-1 ratio, nowadays it's more like 30-to-1, 60-to-1 of omega-12s to omega-3. And this is a spectrum, right? 12 is like thicker fat, and 3 is like thinner, runnier fat. So I want you to just imagine it that way. So the problem is that we insulate our neurons with these things called myelin, with stuff called myelin, the cells, myelin sheath, these myelin, and the quality of that, it's fat. And the quality of that, I mean, you make it out of the fat that's in your body, right? Because that's how you build stuff, is you dig in the ground, you find the building materials that are there, and you build whatever it's there. So your body looks around, find whatever building materials it is that is fat, and builds the stuff there. So when you have this massive ratio of incorrect fat, not incorrect fat, but massive ratio of one type of fat that is not as conducive to faster electrical impulses as the other kind of fat, then you end up with slower signals. So you can literally speed up your neurons and your reactions by just eating more fish oils, or you can eat the stuff the fish are actually eating, which is seaweed. So you get the fat essentially from the sun. You know, it comes down, hits all these plants. So you can either eat cows that eat grass, lots and lots of grass, they condense all the fat for you from the plant, or you can eat fish that eat lots and lots of seaweed, or you can just take pills they make out of the seaweed, I think. And that'll do it for you too. So that's one way the diet can directly improve your esport performance. I should have checked the numbers before I came on the show, since I knew this question was coming up, but I didn't know I was going to be talking about fish oil. But I calculated once the average expected increase in milliseconds for reaction speed for clicking a mouse in response to a visual stimuli. They actually have studies where they're testing reaction speed, and a lot of times when they test it, they are showing somebody something visually, and then they're having them click a button. So it's a pretty accurate representation of, like, you know, this chain of events that happens. And it's not insignificant. It actually is a significant amount of reaction speed. So there's that. Exercise regime. Yes, exercise is shown to improve learning and to improve motor learning, especially. So if you, for example, study something, or you practice a new skill and then you go do a motor intensive physical task, the neurogenesis that shows up in your brain, or the amount of things that you can remember off of a list. What are the others? How are the other studies structured? I'm trying to remember the results of the other studies I've read. Retention. It's mostly about retention. When they study like learning, what they like to do is study memorization, how many things you can remember. And then they also like to study using an EEG, one of those things that's on the head that's like got little dots everywhere, and they try to study neural activity, and they see that it's larger in the area of the brain that you would see neurotransmitters being released for neurogenesis, or like the learning center, or like the place where you're formulating the new knowledge. So essentially the things that, like I was talking to my friend, I said, okay, so what physical activity would you recommend, in the 2 to 4 hours after an intense training session to increase chances that I will learn the stuff that I was practicing? And he said juggling. Something that requires intense concentration and physical coordination. So maybe skiing, or some sort of new full body physical thing that requires your coordination and your motor coordination to learn. Something like parkour that involves, if you're bad at it, parkour that involves like jumping around and hopping and grabbing things and coordinating your body, or dancing. Ballroom dancing would be another good example. Things that require these kind of intense coordination. So those are the things that will boost your brain. And then, of course, you need stamina to train for long hours. So all of the esport athletes in the intense sports are all physically fit nowadays. You just have to be cardiologically fit in order to maintain the training regime needed for pro life. Okay, and then lifestyle. I'm not really sure what that means, but I think things like meditation, stress relief, like lots and lots of training, and that, probably to a lesser extent, I would say, improves your performance. Certainly ambition and motivation matter more. So if you're able to keep up your ambition and your motivation, then that is going to be the lifestyle that is more conducive to performance. If you're not motivated, then you're never going to be a high performer. Okay. That's it, I think. I went over one example for each category. Awesome, guys. Let's jump into the next question. The next question I'm going to do is actually an audio question. Like I said, you can submit these on Discord down below, so make sure to check it out.
Hi, Weldon. I was wondering how much of an impact you thought things like the Morning Miracle routine by Hal Elrod affect performance, especially when it comes to like elite play and pro play, and how much of a difference it can really make to follow those 6 steps every single day?
Okay, so if you haven't read the book, it's very interesting. And you can probably skip the book if you just go and listen to an interview with him or a podcast or something with him, because he usually tells his whole story and his whole morning routine actually there. But the basic gist of it is that we have this guy, Hal Elrod, and he had a kind of a crazy life leading up to a massive accident, at which point he decided, he was going to fix his injuries. I think he was paralyzed, or he would never walk again, or something like that. And so he started embarking, on every single day with a morning routine, which he calls his miracle morning, because now he can walk again. And so it was a miracle. And basically the idea is, how important are morning routines for elite performance? And what... This is the morning, as you can see from my yawning. What are the morning routines? I shouldn't stretch in the show, probably because it'll make me yawn. What are the morning routines that actually will improve your elite performance? Okay, so there's a saying I've been living by for the last 6 weeks, as I've been getting up to stream and record the show at 4 a.m. every single day. And it's a saying that my wife gave me, and she said, I think it's from Benjamin Franklin. She said, "Early to bed, early to rise makes you healthy, wealthy, and wise." And I found that to be accurate and true. In the 2 times in my life that I've intentionally gotten up early and done morning routines have been some of the most productive times of my life, period. The rest of my childhood, I didn't really have a choice. I just always got up. I was always up, at 5 or 6 a.m. I was either doing jazz band before school, or I was swimming before school for 20 years. I wasn't swimming before school for 20 years, but I was swimming for 21 years. And a lot of that was getting up in the morning and going to the pool and swimming for an hour and a half before everybody else even woke up. That's just how it is, because then you have to train after school too, or going to the weight room before school to train for swimming. So essentially, I've always been a morning person. I love mornings. And as my life got later and later and later, from the age of like 21, 22 onward, I just kept staying up later and later and later. And things kind of kept working out, like they kept improving. But I realize now, especially after the last 2 months, that if I had been able to discipline myself to just go to bed and get up early instead, things would have been a lot different. And that's interesting, because I was also getting up early. Like, I was staying up late, but I was also getting up early because I love mornings so much. So, so I firmly believe that morning habits can impact performance, because you can get through a lot of stuff in the morning and just be done with it and have a very successful day and accomplish things when you have a very strong motivation before the day has a chance to creep up on you and turn you into an unproductive person. You're able to prioritize things and get your number 1 and number 2 priorities kind of done, I would say. And I think that that's a very valuable thing. I think that every single long-term successful thing that you do in life is just accumulation of a set of daily habits towards that thing, right? That you do a little bit every single day. That's the only way you achieve anything as a human, and anything of merit, right? And so what, aside from that, is a morning habit? It's just a way of like putting all of those things together in a particular time when you have the most motivation, and then doing them there. So I really, really, really believe in the idea of finding a habitual way to execute on the things that you desire. I don't think there's any more to say on that. So let's jump into the next question, everybody. Question number 3. This one is from Garrett on Discord. And he says and asks, "I'm a college athlete and my team just doesn't seem to have good chemistry." Why does this look out of focus to me? All right. "I'm a college athlete. My team just doesn't seem to have good chemistry. We have lots of people that don't get along with each other or get along with me. We don't seem to have any clear leaders. I've always wanted to be the leader, but it's hard to lead people that either don't like me or don't want to listen. How do we become that leader that our team needs to help our chemistry and win more games?" Garrett, thank you for this question. I did want to talk about this today. It also has to do with the habits thing. I heard some advice recently that was very useful. I don't remember where it came from, actually, but it was very simple, and so I remembered it, and it resonated with me because it is something that I have done before, and I was like, oh, I've done that. I've done that several times. So here's the advice, and it's basically you have to, in order to, how does it go? In order to have, you have to do. In order to do, you have to be. Is that it? Yeah, so first you be, then you do, then you have it. So essentially it works like this. In around 2000 and let's see, this is 2012. Yeah, 2012. In 2013, 2012, yeah. It was around then. I was like, how is it that there are people that are rich and people that are not? How is it there are people that are successful and people that are not? And I was trying to figure this out, and I was thinking, well, like, what is it that people with money do to get money? And so I thought about it, and then I was like, well, what if in 10 years I wanted to have a certain amount of money? How much would I need to make in 5 years? And then I was like, if I wanted to have, say, $1 billion in 10 years, how much would I need to make in 5 years? What would I need to have? And I kind of thought about that and figured it out. And I was like, okay, well, let's say if I want to have $1 billion in 10 years, how much money do I need to have in 5 years to get that? Okay, so I kind of got a realistic amount. And when I say realistic, I mean if you're going to think that you could have $1 billion in 10 years, you gotta, your sense of realism is getting skewed there, right? So then I pictured that. I pictured myself in 5 years, and I figured out like how much money I would need to have in 5 years in order to have $1 billion in 10 years. And then I was like, okay, well, if I want to have that much money in 5 years, how much money do I need to have in 1 year to get to that 5-year mark? So I thought about that, and I kind of figured out the math, and I figured out the possible kind of growth and trajectory, and I figured that in 1 year I'd kind of need to be in this position. And then I was like, okay, well, if I want to be in that position in 1 year, what do I need to do every single day today for the next 365 days to have that much money at the end of the year? And I was like, well, not this thing or that thing or that thing. Those things are kind of just a waste of time and useless. And I realized, oh, okay, so people who are rich are basically, they do things that rich people do because they are rich. And then I started doing those things, and I started making a lot more money. So I ended up making more money, by the second year of quitting my job and doing esport consulting and starting my own business. I ended up making more money than I think my dad did at the peak of his career, which shocked me, first of all. And I was like, oh, just inflation, actually, because now he's making more money than me again, because he went back to work. So I was like, oh, yes, it was just inflation. But it was a very satisfying feeling. And then it was a feeling of like, oh, so basically you spend most of your mire and your life kind of mired up and mucked up and just doing random things, kind of just doing stuff, right? But if you ever sit down and you think about and you try to clarify, like, what it is that you want to have and who it is that you want to, and then what it is that you need to do to have that and who it is you need to be to do those things, then it becomes very, very clear and easy to let me put this another way, to drive yourself to that place. And you get what you want. I think that in a lot of ways people get exactly what it is that they are acting towards or that they are. Which is why it is so painful to see victims who are unable to get to work with their victimness, right? Because like the atrocity has already been committed to them, and it's like in the past, and there's literally, there's justice, which is a wonderful thing. But there's the only way to help somebody who has been victimized is to try to help them overcome it within themselves, because at that point the crime is already over, and the thing that they're doing to themselves is actually continuing and continuing to perpetrate that crime in their life. But unfortunately, it's not the criminal doing it anymore. It is actually the victim doing it to themselves. And that's the horrible, horrible thing about crime and about victimization, is that it inflicts that wound upon people. But if you can, but if you can help people, or if people can somehow come out of that mindset, then all of a sudden they realize that they're continuing to perpetrate this crime upon themselves, and they're able to somehow master that fate and choose a different destiny for themselves. It's a beautiful thing. Well, it turns out it's not just about victims who are doing that, right? There's just normal people, and you don't realize it, but you're a victim of the world and of your situation and of your circumstances. And you can think about an idealization of what it is you want to be or do or have, or of something you want to have, and then you can basically decide, okay, well, what does that look like to be? And then you can do that. So going back to Garrett's question, okay, guys, how did we get off this topic, right? I've always wanted to be that leader, but it's hard to lead people that either don't like me or don't want to listen. Yes, it is hard to lead. It is hard to lead people. It's not that they don't like you or don't want to listen. It's that you have to be a leader. So if you want to have leadership, you have to do leadership. If you want to do leadership, you have to be a leader. That's the first choice. So you just wake up and you say, I am a leader. Okay, what is it that leaders do? Start doing that. And then eventually you will have leadership. Might not happen for a few years if you suck at first, but I would say that leaders typically try to figure out, they try to read people and empathize and figure out how to motivate people and move people, and they study humans. They figure out what it is that brings people to what they want, what ingests the fire within them, how to speak, how to cage their words, how to cage their cadence, how to cage their stories and their narratives in a way that tell heroism to people, to cause them to act, to make them the hero of their own private story, and to engender within them agency to then make that story a reality in their life. And that is what leadership is about. So you craft your ability to do that, and then all of a sudden people like or don't like you, but they listen to you, right? I have struggled against this pushback in esport, where there are coaches who are like, oh, it's so hard to coach esport athletes, they don't listen, and it's hard to motivate you, and they don't want to. I have never once met a single esport athlete that I could not work with, that didn't want to strive to win, that wasn't like willing to try things that we were working on together. And I attribute that to the fact that I am a coach. Like, that's who I am, and that's who I've striven to be my entire life. So that's what I do, is I find ways of getting people what they want to achieve, and then coaching them to that place. And so that's what I have, is I have this coaching ability. And so when I get in front of a team and I tell them to do the same exact thing that somebody told them to do 5 minutes before, they do it for me, because I don't tell them the same way. I make them a hero of their own story, and we work on it together, and we get them to that spot. So I would say, Garrett, that how do you become the leader that our team needs to be to help our chemistry win more games? You might not help your team right now to have more chemistry, more games, but to become that leader, you have to choose today that you are that leader. You have to choose it every single day when you wake up, and then that's where you're going to be when you get there. All right. We're getting deep. We're getting deep down here. Whew. We could be like underwater at this point. Welcome to Weldon's self-help series on esport, where we tackle life's biggest questions. All right. Last question, guys. Last question. Oh, before this question, buy my self-help book. Hey guys, if you got any value at all out of the last thing that I talked about, I really recommend the MAC program. This is the program that I made to try to supplant myself, because I can coach pros, but I don't have time to coach everybody. And so I tried to distill my knowledge into a 50 video course, which is right here, mindgames.gg/MAC. And literally this morning, so literally midnight last night, sitting in the airport, waiting for the bus for 2 hours, I started remaking version 4. This is version 3 right here. I started remaking version 4, and I saw on GitHub that the first commits for version 4, the app, have gone in. So now is your chance to get this, because when this app goes live and this version 4 goes live, it is going to be amazing. It's going to be the best product that I have ever produced, and the price is not going to be the same as it is right now, which is just $25 if you use the code AskWeldon. By the way, there's this 100% guarantee over here means that you can just at any time say, hey, actually, this isn't really for me, or I finished this and don't want it anymore, and I'll give you a refund. So that's the 100% guarantee. It's a 100% guarantee of your being satisfied, because if you're not, I just give you your money back, because it's not really that essential that I have your $25. It's more essential that this has an impact on your life. But anyway, after version 4 goes live, everybody who's in gets grandfathered in. Awesome, right? And in the meanwhile, this is how I am funding the development. I'm literally taking all of the money that I'm making and I'm like throwing it at engineer to make this thing, because I can't code for nothing. And so, yeah. So if you want to support this channel and you're like, how can I do that? This is how. It also supports yourself. And if you are interested in this idea that I posited of like being who you need to be or want to be in order to achieve great things, this is one way to think about it as well. And finally, if you're interested at all in habits, this is the habit for emotional control, I would say. I say control. You'll find out once you get into the program that it's impossible to control emotions, and it's more about disciplining your actions and your thoughts and your mind and conquering your soul in that way. But yeah, this is where I do it all. And it's only going to get better and more awesome the longer that you own it. So make sure you check it out. And also, if you don't have $25, but you code Polymer and Firestore and Google Cloud Functions, then also hit me up, okay, if you want to contribute your labor that way. If you code Polymer, Firestore, Google Cloud Functions, or you happen to be like a professional, and I mean professional, like you've designed several apps, graphic designer, UX, UI, that would be dope. So anyway, just a little plug there. Okay, guys, last question of the show. I work at my local YMCA as a basketball coach and often find myself struggling to keep my kids' attention. They're 6 to 10 years old. Most of them are friends from school, so they know each other well and they tend to goof off. What do you think is better for a kid's sport development? Being with their friends so they're comfortable, or being separate from their friends so they can put their small amount of focus on the task at hand? I want them to learn the skills for their games, but I also want them to be, I don't want to be the mean coach that breaks up friend groups. Okay, so I love this question. The reason I put it on the show is because I am in sport for the purposes of youth development through sport. So I want you, Renopes is the guy who asked this question, or the girl. I want you to think of that. The development of youth through sport. That is what you're doing. That is what youth sport does. The development of youth through sport. Okay, what do you mean by development? Okay, the development of social and emotional skills, SES. The development of social and emotional skills through sport. Okay, well, what's the point of that? Okay, the development of transferable life skills, which are social and emotional skills through sport. That is the reason sport exists. That is the reason that amateur youth sport in modern society exists. It's not the reason that sport exists. But if you're looking at YMCA, kids basketball, age 6 to 10, getting together after school, the reason it exists is for you to help them develop transferable life skills, which are social and emotional skills, that then they can use in other areas of their life as they grow, through physical activity and sport, through competition with their bodies. Okay? So get that philosophy squared away, right? Now the decision becomes more clear. How can you best help them develop social and emotional skills in your practice? Okay, well, You want them to learn discipline. You want them to learn making friends with new people. You want them to learn being nice to people and handling new situations and social skills. You want them to handle winning and losing well. You want them to handle competition. So the answer to your question is a balance. You want to let them be with their friends, and you want that to be okay. You want to be like, hey, it's friend time. Like, let's rock it. And then you want to be like, okay, guys, next activity, I'm going to break up your friend groups because one of the things you need to do in life a lot, when you go to a new school, when you go to a new job, when you graduate from high school, when you graduate from junior high school, you go to a new high school, you're going to have to find new friends. And you're going to have to get them to like you. And you're going to have to get information from them. So I'm going to put you in new groups now, people you don't know as well. And you know how you get to know people well? You trade information. You tell them things and they tell you things. The reason you're friends with these friends over here is because you know things about each other. You traded information and you've had experiences. Now we're going to have experiences with new people, and I want you to change information. And by the way, the point of this is to learn to discipline yourself to train so we can win, right? You're not going to go to the NBA probably. There's 0.2%, 0.02% chance. So count how many people there are here. Are there 100? All right. 0.2 of your toe is going to the NBA. All right. So you teach it to them in that way, and you say like, but maybe there's 1,000 people, in this program. If we look at this this whole program, so maybe your arm and your left arm and your left leg are going to the NBA, and you say, okay, well there's 10,000 people in the city programs, so maybe one of you is going to the NBA. All right, but anyway. While you're here, what you're going to be learning is you're going to be learning these skills that you're going to need for when you go to your next school, and things like that. Find ways of telling them these stories. Find ways of telling them the value that they're going to get out of the things that you're trying to teach them, and then balance it. Let them relax. People need a chance to relax with their friends, right? Ask them to do something hard, then let them relax into something easy. And build up the ambition again, and then build it up and say, okay, now we're going to do something hard again, and have them go at it. Because if you're the mean coach, right, and you split them off the whole practice for 60 minutes, and they're just like grumpy and they don't want to do it and they don't do anything, that is not as valuable as 5 condensed minutes of effort where they are trying to network with a new group of friends. Right? If you imagine if you can get the 5 minutes of condensed effort where they have that one experience where they introduce themselves to somebody with the intention of like, I'm going to actively listen and I'm going to actively like share information, and they're trying and they're thinking about how that might have value to them in the future in some other situation, that is probably the most valuable thing you will literally do all season, is that 5 minutes, right? So if you can cause that to happen, and you do it by basically juggling back and forth. Okay, now we're going to relax. Okay, now I'm going to ask you to do this harder thing. Okay, now we're going to go back to a safe situation where it takes no emotional effort to exist and you can just play and have fun and learn physical skills. And now I'm going to ask you all to be silent and no talking, and we're going to focus on our bodies, and I want you to develop this body skill, because this coordination, like the harder you focus on it, the more of it you'll learn. So cut the chatter. Silence, complete silence. I want you guys to focus on your muscles. I want you to focus on your movement and your coordination. I want you to think of this as a dance. I want you to beautifully move your body through this space. And the more you focus on it, the better. So now it's silent time for 5 minutes. Hold it. You can do it. No talking. 5 minutes. Okay, break. All right, everybody relax. Now you're doing the same activity and you're having fun, but people can talk. They can relax into it, right? So you have this contrapositive where you're pushing the yin and this yang, where you're pushing them on one side and you're dragging them to the other. And that is how you coach kids to do what you want. Is they cannot focus for that long, and you don't want to be the mean coach, so you sell it to them, first of all, because you need their engagement, or else they don't develop the skill that you're trying to give them, which is these social and emotional skills and these physical skills. And then, after you sell it to them, you let them play out to the level of their tolerance, and then you give them another space to like relax and be themselves and just do sport with their friends, which is also valuable in and of itself, right? The development of kids through sport. You can also be a friend on the basketball court and do it there, and it's very different from being with your friends at school. So I hope that was helpful, Renopes. Thanks for asking this awesome question. It is my number one passion. It is why I'm in professional esport in the first place, is to eventually influence amateur esport all over the world, and you are my target audience, the person who is coaching the youth team. So glad to have my first question of that probably ever, actually. This is one of my most exciting questions, moments in, I think, the entire Ask Weldon show career that I've had. So that's the show today, guys. Thank you so much for attending. Thank you for paying attention. Make sure to check out this show live, twitch.tv/mindgamesweldon, every single day, 4:30 a.m. Helsinki time. And any other announcements or closings? Share this video with people who need to hear it. Get this to #1 trending. It's not going to happen. What else? Buy the Mac program.